Alright, so today we are actually going to be continuing our efforts to look at weird, obscure, different kinds of Pokemon that are in the Tempest League this month. And today we're actually going to be looking at a very interesting one that I've been actually wanting to do a deep dive on for a little while myself, just so that I can gain some more knowledge about it and see actually how good it is in this cup. That Pokemon is actually going to be none other than Masquerain. Masquerain is a bug and flying type Pokemon which actually maxes at level 40 with perfect IVs at 2,270 CP. So this thing actually may be pretty decent in the Ultra League someday. You can achieve an exactly 1,500 at level 27 if you have 003 for your IVs there. That is attack, defense, and stamina. And based on its maximum stat potential versus the level 27 with 0 IVs potential, it actually ranks up to 52.55% of its max potential for this cup, which that actually sets it back all the way to 71st in the list of potential Pokemon for the Tempest League, which ends up meaning that it's really about in the middle of the road, just higher than average. There are about 160 unique Pokemon that can participate in the Tempest Cup. Being 71st means that you're basically in the middle of the road. You got to choose which side you want to be on. Obviously, he's going to be on the top half, but it's a joke for later. When it comes to bulk, Masquerain is actually ranked 76, which here again means that he's actually in the middle of the road and he's kind of like in limbo. Fun fact though, he actually, based on this cup, he actually has more bulk than Garchomp has. Simply by taking the stat product at level 27 versus the stat product of Garchomp in this Tempest Cup. I think Garchomp's like level 15 is the maximum level that he can achieve to be in this cup. He actually has more bulk than Garchomp. Who would have thunk? Let's actually move on to moves. So for our fast moves, we actually have Air Slash and Infestation. Air Slash is going to be doing 3 energy per turn with 3 damage per turn. Infestation does gain a little bit more energy, but at the cost of a whole damage, pushing 3.67 energy per turn for only 2 damage per turn. So I'm honestly going back and forth on which one of these I would honestly run. I like the fact that Infestation is going to be gaining more energy per turn, but the simple fact that Bug is resisted by too many types makes it really, really hard to just want to go for a bug type move in this cup. It makes it really, really weird. Even though it's got more energy per turn, it's going to do way, way less damage. I do think that Air Slash ends up being the better choice here, only because you're only going to be resisted by 3 different typings. And Air Slash does decent energy gain. It's not like it loses all the energy that it gains. And it does actually more damage, so I think you'll push more DPS. You'll just be, I mean, a tiny bit slower. I ran some numbers. Quickest way to get Ominous Wind off under Infestation, I think it was like 5.5 seconds. So that's 11 turns. And then Air Slash was like 6.5 seconds, so that's like 13 turns. So, I mean, you're really giving up like 1 full second worth of playtime just to get, you know, 3 more damage per turn. So let's do that math really fast. So in 11 turns you do 22 damage for Ominous Wind. In 13 turns you'd end up doing 39 damage. I mean, 39 damage, I honestly do think that Air Slash would end up being the better choice here. So, let's actually move on to charge moves here. So we actually have Air Cutter, Silver Wind, and Ominous Wind. So, Masquerain is one of these unique Pokemon that has access to both Silver Wind and to Ominous Wind, meaning that it has 2 potential stat buff moves. That's really cool, but then again, it's only a 10% chance that you're going to get off one of those buffs. But as we saw in the Twilight Cup, it can make or break some matchups for you. So it actually might be worth looking into. Air Cutter is actually going to take 55 energy to fire off. It'll do 60 damage with a damage per energy at 1.09. not the greatest, if I'm being honest. Silverwind is going to cost 45 to fire, it does 70 damage for 1.56 damage per energy. I love it. I love Silverwind. It's amazing. Ominous Wind being at 40, costing 40 to fire off, 50 damage with a 1.25 damage per energy. Nothing wrong with Ominous Wind there. To be honest, same thing that we talked about with Infestation. Silverwind is going to be resisted so much in this meta. It's going to be really hard. If you do not know your typings, you could accidentally, like I probably will in testing, you will probably go up against something and end up doing resisted damage with Silverwind where you easily could have had Ominous Wind and done at least neutral. But what does that actually mean? Well, Masquerain falls into this really weird situation. So, as usual, let's go over pros and cons. We're going to go over cons first. So, negative matchups. So, what I've been doing this entire week is I've been taking all of the bulkiest Pokemon, the top 10 bulkiest Pokemon, and I've been putting up our subject that we're looking at and testing it against those bulky Pokemon. By no means are they the end-all be-all of your matchups, but I'm trying to get an idea of how much damage it can actually push against these bulky Pokemon. So, Masquerain actually loses to Steelix, Tropius, Lantern, Lugia, Dugong, Altaria, and Lapras. Yeah. On the flip side, Claydol is in this weird situation where it can win against Claydol. It really will depend. Claydol may or may not be used very widely in the meta. I don't know if it's even going to be relevant for Masquerain to even go up against Claydol. But in testing, it was kind of either way depending on which moveset Claydol ended up having. On the positive side, it does kill Jumpluff. Easy. Our next negative thing is it's got so many weaknesses. Masquerain unfortunately falls to the same syndrome as Scyther. I would love to use Scyther this month, but he's just got too many weaknesses to even be worth it. Fire, rock, ice, flying. I mean, just to name a few, he's just got so many. And the problem is that fire, rock, ice, I mean, all of those are going to be very prevalent in the meta. Like, ice types are going to be rampant. Rock types are going to be right there on your heels. Quagsire, Rhyperior, those type of moves are going to be right there on your heels. So it's going to be really hard to get off good moves. And it's going to be hard to have a good match with Masquerain, in my honest opinion. On the flip side, Masquerain actually does charge pretty quickly. I mean, as you can see here, if you go for just pure stab moves, if you just go for Air Slash, Air Cutter, and Silverwind, which is probably my preferred moveset, me personally, I mean, you can charge your Silverwind very quickly. And Silverwind is nothing to laugh at. 1.56 damage per energy is really high. Like, that's actually really good. He does charge very quickly, and to go along with that, he does have 2 buff moves. So no matter which move you end up choosing, you do actually get buffs in a rare situation. So that's kind of a positive, you know. Our next negative thing is that Masquerain is just extremely fragile. I mean, his stats do not show that he's going to be able to tank a hit. He's going to be super fragile, and the fact that he has so many weaknesses just makes it that much worse. Like, I could see maybe 76th in bulk and only having like 1 weakness. That wouldn't be too bad. But the fact that he has like 5 or 6 weaknesses alone, plus he has no bulk to back up those weaknesses, just makes it really rough on Masquerain. On the other side, he's pretty cheap. You know, Surskit's not super rare. You go outside in the rain and you can usually find a handful. You usually look for something around like 480 to 500 CP, I think, and you'll have one that's in range without powering up too much. I mean, that's not too bad. It's fairly cheap. His second move is only a 10,000 dust, 25 candy move. It's not too bad. Our last negative thing, which actually, I mean, Masquerain has more positives than negatives here. Masquerain's just going to lose to most of the top tiers. Most of the bulkier Pokemon are preferred in a lot of matchups, like Steelix is preferred, Tropius, Lantern, Dugong, Altaria, Lapras. All those are very top tier Pokemon that a lot of people talk about because they have such high TDOs. Unfortunately, because of Masquerain's weaknesses, he loses to almost all of them, and that makes it really rough on Masquerain. Maybe in another cup, in another situation where maybe it's bug type instead of flying type that's preferred in the meta, maybe that'll unleash some hidden power that Masquerain may have here. But unfortunately, Masquerain just loses really hard to everything in the meta these days. Our next positive is actually a really cool one. So Masquerain actually has a preferred matchup against Abomasnow. Yeah, so Abomasnow, I mean, of course he's going to be running Razor Leaf, so it's not going to be very effective against the bug typing, but he's also not going to be able to get a whole lot of energy before you can. And Silverwind or Air Cutter are going to be great against Abomasnow. He actually has a preferred matchup, and I'm talking he beats Abomasnow in almost all situations, which is really good. Barring that Abomasnow doesn't have like 2 shields, you're probably going to die in that scenario. But the fact that Masquerain can actually take down Abomasnow, which is one of the like tankiest Pokemon in the meta, he's definitely not the highest in bulk, but he's definitely like a high energy payoff hard hitter. The fact that Masquerain can take out a hard hitter like Abomasnow is really surprising to me, and that's actually pretty motivational to try out Masquerain in my opinion. Our last positive for Masquerain is actually that he's actually got preferred matchups against most pure ground types. So there is a small caveat here. Some pure ground types will have rock type moves. Most of them only have ground type and then maybe fighting types as well, like Rock Smash and stuff like that. But as long as they don't have rock type moves, he actually has preferred matchups against Marowak and regular Dugtrio. I did try some stuff with Alolan Dugtrio, which Alolan Dugtrio is going to have to be looked at. I mean, he's just too cool to not look at for this. Like, we're going to have to do a deep dive on him. Alolan Dugtrio does really take Masquerain down. It's a close battle, but Alolan Dugtrio is just going to resist too much from Masquerain, so it just ends up not working out in Masquerain's favor. But against the pure ground types, Masquerain actually does really well. So if you decide to budget and go with Masquerain this month, and you end up coming up against a team that has some pure ground typings on it, definitely throw your Masquerain in there, because he's definitely preferred against that. It's going to actually work out usually in your favor, pending that shields work out and you're at least even in the number of shields that you have. That is actually going to be all that I have for Masquerain today, guys. If I had to honestly give you guys, would I choose Masquerain for my team this month? No. Unfortunately, I would not. Not unless you just really need a budget option. I have become fortunate enough to run into a Surskit who evolved into a perfect 1500. I know it's not at level 27, but a perfect 1500 for me. And because it's so cheap to get the extra move, I went ahead and did it. I'm definitely going to show some testing with it. If you guys are at all interested in Masquerain, don't count him out. He does have his place. It's just not preferred. He loses to more things than he wins. The ones that he does win against are decent wins. Like Abomasnow's a great win to have under your belt. But it's just not, that's not good enough for me. I personally can't recommend Masquerain. I will be doing some testing with him. If I had to choose a role for him to be in, he would be a mid. And he would be one of those mids that you only pull out if you just desperately need it. He's going to be such a off-meta pick that people may have no clue what to do when they go up against him. But I don't foresee it working out great in your favor unless we talked about like Abomasnow and like a pure ground type Pokemon, and then you have a counter for their third. Like maybe Masquerain does really well for you there, but that's a rare occurrence. So I personally can't recommend him, but I completely understand if you need to budget. Masquerain's not too bad as a budget Pokemon, especially having Silverwind. I'm a huge believer in Silverwind. It's a great move. Venomoth ripped it last month. It was so good. That is actually going to be my full analysis, my full deep dive on Masquerain. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any Pokemon that you want to see deep dives of, please let me know down in the comments below. I'll be happy to look into them for you. Up on the dock, I do want to go through Regice. I do want to go through a Alolan Dugtrio. Someone suggested Donphan, which I think is a very interesting one. And, I mean, we've got plenty more. Whatever you guys want to see, let me know down in the comments below. So if you like to like videos, make sure you do that. If you don't, you can be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say in those comments. And until tomorrow, well, no, today's Friday. Well, I may actually do some of these on the weekend, just because they're easy to talk it out. I don't know, guys. Until the next video, I will see you then.